There is a power and a presence of enoughness that is eternal in you. It will never be depleted. You could never, ever, ever run out of this creative power of the glory of God that you are. Welcome to Miracle Zone. This is a place where we are looking at and studying the 50 miracle principles that begins the book, A Course in Miracles. The talk title for today is There Is No Lack. And we'll be looking at miracle principles number 8, number 40, number 42 and 41. So let's dive in. Miracle principle number 8 says, miracles are healing because they supply a lack. They're performed by those who temporarily have more for those who temporarily have less. So the word temporary is extremely, extremely important here. Lack is temporary. Lack exists in that dream of separation where the belief is there's not enough. That is a temporary idea that is only alive because we continue to feed it and believe it. More is temporary because it's impossible for us to be one in God and for one to have more than another. So this is really important for us to look at. When we come from the place and we go into the dream and we have what's called more for a moment, when we share with another, our mindset is vitally important. How are you thinking about the other? How are you holding someone in your mind and your heart when you feel the call to share from your temporary experience of having more? The world out there says there are people broken and they're in need, and so we have to save them and rescue them. And that mindset keeps everybody trapped. This beautiful spiritual teaching lifts us up and above that. And it says that when you have an experience of more, that's a temporary experience in the illusion. Enjoy it, share it, know that this is the experience you've been given, and that, the next day we can find ourselves flipping the coin on the other side of lack. They both are lies. And one of the ways to heal them is to extend and to share. If you are a person that is in an experience of temporary lack, then the invitation to you is to lay down your shame, lay down your guilt, open your arms and say, thank you, Holy Spirit, for providing me the good that I need now from any channel that is best for me. Thank you for letting me receive. Put yourself in the holy place where perhaps your temporary experience of lack is a blessing to the one who is temporarily experiencing more, so that you both can balance and heal. Don't identify yourself with either, because when you do, you suffer. You'll never ultimately have less, and you'll never ultimately have more. I want to tell a story that I love, love, love to tell. It is the story of the skinny cow. There's this village, that very, very poor village. People are just barely getting by. There's one man who lives in the village. His name is Adir. And Adir, in terms of this village, is actually well off. And the reason that he's well off is because he has a skinny cow. Now, don't think of a cow like you see cows here in the Western world, a skinny, fragile cow that's barely getting by. But Adir has that cow. And no one else even has that. So off of that cow, he is able to sustain his family. He's able to keep things moving forward. Well, one day through the village comes who's named the Baal Shem Tov. The Baal Shem Tov is a holy spiritual man. And he comes with his students and with a kind of a parade of followers. And as he enters the town, everyone comes out to meet him, to stand there, and to hopefully be blessed by the Baal Shem Tov. Of course, Adir and his wife go out to meet him also. And the Baal Shem Tov stops, and he walks right up to Adir. He says, hello. And he says, hey, me and my students are hungry and we need a place to stay. We ask that you open your home to us. Well, the deer, of course, is just so blown away. Like, why pick him out of the whole town? So he and his wife run home to prepare the place. And they open their cupboards. There's nothing in there. They don't know what to do. And the deer has this moment where he goes, oh, I have to sacrifice the skinny cow. We have to feed them. We have to care for them. And the wife is like, no, that's all we have. That's all we have. Hear those words. But the deer decides this is what must be done. And he thinks, if I can do this and feed them, there'll be enough for my family for a couple weeks, and then I'll be able to figure out the next solution. So he does this, and the Baal Shem Tov and his students come, and we've got to sort of speed up time here, and the whole meal is prepared and placed on the table. Well, the Baal Shem Tov eats and eats and eats until every single piece is gone. And the deer is just crumbling on the inside as he sees all that he has disappear. Well, just as strange as when the Baal Shem Tov walks up to a deer and says, hey, will you please house us and feed us? He stands up and he says, it's time for us to go. And that quickly, he and his students are on the way. And left in the home is a deer and his wife staring at each other. And imagine his wife just filling with upset and fear and anger. And the Baal Shem Tov is feeling so much shame and embarrassment. And he just takes off. He goes out for a walk. And he goes out into the woods. And he's so afraid. And he's so mad at God. Why would you do this to me? What is happening here? As he's moving through the woods, he hears a voice calling out for help. And so he follows the voice. And he finds himself there next to a man named Mordecai. Mordecai was out in the woods and he fell and broke his leg. Mordecai is the richest man from a few towns over. And a deer sits down with him and helps wrap his leg and get him ready so that he can help him out of the woods. And he's talking to him and he says to Mordecai, you're such a blessed man. You have so much good. To which Mordecai says, you think this is good? I don't know who my friends are. My family would just as be happy to let me die out here so that they can just have all of this stuff and all of the money. It's not as great as you think to have more than everybody else. So together they leave the woods and a deer really helps him move and takes him to another village where he can heal and he can become better and leaves him there and goes home. So we fast forward the story about a year later, and the Baal Shem Tov is finding his way back through town with his students. And as he's moving into town, this big, beautiful carriage comes up, and you can just tell immediately that the carriage is just, a very, very wealthy person. And it stops, and out pops a deer. And he runs over to the Baal Shem Tov, and he says, hello. And the Baal Shem Tov is, look at you, a deer. Look at all this wealth. He says, yes, I met a man named Mordecai, and I helped him out. He ended up passing away a few months later, and he left me with all of these riches. And Baal Shem Tov said, well, good for you, Adir. That's so wonderful. And Adir thanked him. He went on his way. And then the students of the Baal Shem Tov walked up to him, and one of them said, hey, wait a minute. We've been wondering about this ever since we were here before. You went into his home. You knew that Adir and his wife had nothing but one skinny cow. And you took all of it. You ate all of it. And by the way, Baal Shem Tov, you don't even eat meat. And here you are devouring the last thing that they had. And then we just up and left, which you would also never do. What's up with this? And the Baal Shem Tov turns to his students and he says, Adir thought that he had nothing. But the only thing that was in his way of having everything was the skinny cow. I had to remove the skinny cow so that he could step into his truth. Such a powerful story because it leads us to look into our own lives and say, what's my skinny cow? What am I clinging to, naming as not enough, and yet thinking it's all I have? This is all mindset. In the story, The moment a deer has nothing and he walks out into the wilderness, which represents new territory, which represents the unknown, which means I can't rely upon the old whatsoever. It is in this moment that something new is allowed to swoop in. And here is a man who has more, partnering with a man who has less, coming together to help each other. We all can look into our lives and go, oh, this is the place where I don't believe there's enough, where I experience lack. Maybe it's money, or maybe it's health, or maybe it's love or friendship. Maybe you struggle from a loneliness that keeps you trapped in thinking that there's nobody here for you. All of these are expressions of the same lie, the lie that there's not enough. And then we have to flip the story, and I have to ask you, where in your world are you experiencing more? Where are there blessings that abound that you might be clinging to or afraid to share because you think it's all you have? This is also your opportunity to let go. You are not the lack that you're experiencing. You're not the more that you're experiencing. And yet, it is in the generous sharing of yourself where this is healed within you. Miracle principle number 41 says, wholeness is the perceptual content of miracles. They thus correct or atone for the faulty perception of lack. So what is wholeness? Wholeness can be described in a couple ways, but it's all about inside again. Remember, this is about miracle mindset. This is not about the external world. So one of the ways that we experience wholeness is by balancing the masculine and the feminine energy. By bringing both of them together within ourselves. Just yesterday, my business partner, Aaron, and I did a 3-hour workshop on this very idea of helping people heal within themselves, specifically the divine feminine, which has been so rejected and so scrubbed out of men and women and gay and straight and lesbian and all of us. The divine feminine who holds a power, and a power of abundance, a power of sufficiency, a power of creativity and passion. This part has been squelched and suffered and pushed down in all of us in different ways. So wholeness represents our willingness on the spiritual path to perhaps tame down the masculine, which has more, and to lift up the feminine, which is temporarily experiencing a lack of expression. Just as that other miracle points to the balancing of the two, this one also says wholeness is the balancing of both masculine and feminine, the yin and the yang inside of you. Where are you out of balance? Where could you use some more feminine energy of creativity, of compassion, of gentleness, of power? It's not weak. The feminine nature of your being is not weak. Another expression of wholeness is the acceptance that we don't need anything from the outside. You see, the idea of lack makes us believe that if we get something out there, we won't experience lack. But if that were true, we would have healed it already, correct? The belief that there's not enough, and then the trying to fill enough out there in the world with people, places, and things only continues the cycle of not enough. It doesn't solve the problem. In fact, perpetuates the problem because the lie is I'm not whole. So the place that where we must find our healing is at the inception of the lie, which is in your mind. It's in your belief. There is no whole inside of you. Not enoughness is a whole. Lack and limitation is a whole. Craving, attention, and recognition says that there's a hole in me. Wanting someone else or something else to change implies that there is a hole inside of me. And this is what must be healed. This is what we must offer up, because you will not be able to fully receive the miracles that are here for you or be a miracle worker in the world and simultaneously hold the lie that there's something missing. Take a breath, because this is so vitally important. It's so vitally important that we have this healed within ourselves. There is a sufficiency. There is a power and a presence of enoughness that is eternal in you. It will never be depleted. You could never, ever, ever run out of this creative power of the glory of God that you are. It can never be depleted. So you have no problem when you locate yourself in the center of the God of all sufficiency. Emma Curtis Hopkins says, there is no absence of life, substance, or intelligence in my idea of good. The only cause for evil is the idea of absence. That is all the evil there is. The belief of apartness from God is the foundation of the word evil. Isn't that fascinating? There is no absence. Never. All space is filled with God. All space is filled with solution. The miracle principle number 42 says that a major contribution of miracles is their strength in releasing you from your false sense of isolation, deprivation, and lack. Oh, we need this release, don't we? We need to be released from the false sense of deprivation and lack. This is not something that we do in and of ourselves. This is something that we recognize we have been fueling and feeding. No blame or no shame. That's how the world is created. One of the things that came to mind this week in a wonderful way, one of my really good friends, new friends, Boris, sent me a YouTube video of his where he talked about desire. And that's a really good thing to focus on, because what about desire? How does desire operate within us as a positive? And how does desire operate in us as something that traps us and becomes a block? You can desire something that you have projected unknowingly out into the world, and it's causing you pain and suffering. And there are many great spiritual teachers that say desire is a problem. But there's also a way that desire can be held to lead you into the heart of wholeness. Desire can be used as a kind of like that lighthouse blinking that's saying, hey, this is the way to your divine. So I'm going to welcome my friend and Boris to talk to us about this idea of desire. It's a really good couple minutes. Check it out.
When the energy field of desire arises within the body, it then hijacks the mind and says to the mind, something is missing. The mind then searches what could possibly be missing, latches onto a concept of something that is missing, my girlfriend, for example, my boyfriend, my car, my money, something, whatever. And then it tells you, like in the feedback loop, you won't be happy until you have that in your life right now. That is what desire is on a core fundamental level. And it is icky and it is resisting what you are currently experiencing. You are currently experiencing moment A and you are desiring to be elsewhere in moment B. You will never be in moment B because you're always in moment A from that place of desire. If and when you attain your desire, things align briefly and you're happy. But then, before you know it, energy field of desire arises in the body, crosses over into the mind or the ego. Hey, you're missing something. And suddenly, when we have a desire, it becomes an all-consuming drive that is never pleasant, that is never fulfilling, that is completely blinding to the current moment. I actually think desires are a universal impulse to fulfill something, to progress on the journey. For example, if you have a desire to switch career, I think that desire is sort of like a sign, a alert from source, whatever you want to call it, God saying, this is now the next chapter of your life for whatever evolutionary purposes. And you basically say, okay, I accept that desire by fulfilling it within first, say, okay, great, this is coming now. And then you move along that trajectory to bringing it into your reality. The energy field is completely different. It is no longer from that clutching, needing, lack, which only gets more and more and more and more intense.
Thank you. Thank you for Boris for sharing some of your wisdom. You really did a wonderful job of comparing and contrasting the difference between desire from ego and the desire as a rising up within our spirit. And we all have to take a look at that, right? Because if the desire's inception is lack, then what we will recreate is more lack and more unfulfilled desire. When desire comes from a sense of fullness, a calling to express, to expand, to become more, this is when it becomes holy and it becomes fulfilled. The bottom line is there is no lack, no limitation within you because there is none in God. And a temporary experience of that is not what you are. So my invitation to you in the upcoming week is to look around your world and see wherever you're experiencing lack and call it temporary. This is temporary. This is an idea. This is a belief. And there's an end date on this. And I call forth this end date now. Simultaneously, we must heal the part in us that feels like we have more and therefore we're safe or we're okay. And then we become hoarding, right? Both of those need to be healed. Let's move this into some prayer together. Welcome back, Amy and Jesse. Take a deep breath, everybody. Turn within. Connect with your heart.
Tasted and seen the sweetest of loves, when my heart becomes free and my shame is undone. In your presence, Lord, Holy Spirit, you are welcome here. Come flood this place and fill the atmosphere. Your glory, God, is what our hearts long for, to be overcome by your presence, Lord. Your presence, Lord.
It is in this moment that I place my full attention upon the presence of the Lord, the law of sufficiency and love and power and presence that I am. The I am is never lacking. The I am is always sufficient unto itself, created by the power of the word, by the power of intention, because it is God. God is an abundant presence and power that will never, ever, ever be depleted. And the truth of the matter is, I am one with that. I am the abundance, the glory, the presence, the power, the sufficiency of the divine. And as it's true for me, it's true for you. We meet in the agreement of the divine truth, the spiritual truth of what we are. And from this place of oneness, I deny the belief in lack and limitation in any area of our lives. Body temple, healed and lifted up. The resources needed, always present here. Love all around us. Solutions, opportunity. We are swimming in them. We are swimming in the now and always. And it is the changing of the mind, the welcoming of the miracle that heals the lie where we are lifted up. I know that we are whole. I call forth a balancing of the divine masculine and the divine feminine within each one of us that allows the coming together within our minds and heart to create, to reveal, to express, to be. This is the opportunity that is at hand. Oh, what becomes possible for all of us as we lay down the lie of lack. Take a deep breath. Affirm within yourself, I lay down this lie. I no longer live from it. I no longer source and fuel it. Holy Spirit, remove from all of our lives the skinny cow. That which we have been clinging to, saying, this is all I have. Realizing that that is what has been keeping us from the expression of your glory. Remove the fear that keeps us clinging. Heal us of this lie deeply, 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 that we may walk the world in your glory, in your abundance. Oh, what becomes possible? Everything. Miracles abound. I accept them now, right here, right now. Take a nice deep breath. Say yes. Say yes. Say yes now.
Holy Spirit, you are welcome here. Come flood this place and fill the atmosphere. Your glory, God, is what our hearts long for. To be overcome by your presence, Lord. Your presence, Lord. Let us become more aware of your presence. Let us experience the glory of your goodness. Let us become more aware of your presence. Let us experience the glory of your goodness. Let us become more aware of your presence. Let us experience the glory of your goodness.
Oh, I say yes to this fulfillment. I say yes to this. And with great gratitude, I release this prayer now into the action of the law. It only says yes, and so this is done. And so it is.